Funding the partnerships. The EU implements its policies towards Africa by allocating a part of its resources to African institutions, countries and civil society. Information about funding opportunities can be provided by EU delegations and African ministries. For civil society, it is sometimes easier to ask specialised European NGO platforms such as CONCORD or EPLO, or alternatively to contact staff at EU institutions. The EU's overall budget, called the Multiannual Financial Framework, is financed by member states. The budget is broken down into different budget lines governed by their own legal frameworks, and these are called financial instruments. The main financial instruments are divided into geographical and thematic instruments. To learn more about the EU's development policy and its financial instruments, please search through our website. The European Development Fund is the EU's main financial instrument for providing aid to ACP countries. For historical reasons, the EDF is agreed outside the normal EU budget procedures, and member states give voluntary contributions. Some member states can contribute more than others. The biggest contributors in nominal terms are Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. Normally, the European Development Fund lasts for 7 years. The budget for 2014 to 2020 amounts to €30.5 billion. The programming of the EDF funds is a complex process, involving many different actors. The EDF has a grant element managed by DG DevCo and a loan element managed by the European Investment Bank. A particularity of the EDF is that disbursements need to be co-signed off by the ACP countries' representatives. The European Neighbourhood Instrument has €15.4 billion for the countries of the European Neighbourhood Policy for 2014 to 2020. Those include North African countries, Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco and Tunisia. The Development Cooperation Instrument has an allocation of €19.7 billion for 2014 to 2020. Its main objective is poverty reduction, and it covers least developed countries and fragile countries in Asia, Latin America, the Gulf region, and South Africa. The DCI also has 2 thematic programs, open to all developing countries, including in Africa. The first one is called Global Public Goods and Challenges. It supports inclusive sustainable development, environment and climate change and sustainable energy, human development, food and nutrition security, and sustainable agriculture, migration, and asylum. The second thematic programme supports civil society and local authorities. This programme operates mainly through calls for proposals, but strategic partnerships with civil society organisations will also be funded. Lastly, the DCI also has a new dedicated Pan-African programme to support implementation of the EU strategic partnership with €845 million until 2020. The EDF and DCI are guided by the Agenda for Change, which is the EU's latest development policy introduced in 2012. The aim is to ensure that EU development policy and practice is more focused, relevant, efficient, effective and results-oriented. For this, the EU agreed to target resources in countries where they are most needed to reduce poverty. Assistance will focus on low-income and fragile countries. Middle-income countries are no longer eligible for bilateral ODA. EU agreed to concentrate aid on a maximum of 3 sectors per country, and to promote a coordinated EU action and improve policy coherence for development. More coherence between EU and member states that decide to plan together the use of their funds, and this is called joint programming. Using grants to help unlock additional private funds, which is called blending. In addition to geographic instruments, the EU has instruments that focus on specific issues and are open to organisations from all countries. For Africa, the most relevant instruments are the European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights, which provides support to civil society and organisations promoting democracy and human rights. The Instrument for Stability and Peace, with a focus on crisis response, crisis preparedness and conflict prevention. Common Foreign and Security Policy and Common Security and Defence Policy covers civilian crisis management operations, parts of military operations, counter-proliferation policies. The Instrument for Emergency Aid, which is implemented by the DG for Humanitarian Aid and Civil Protection, ECHO, and covers aid to victims of conflicts or disasters. The Partnership Instrument provides funding for cooperation with industrialized countries and countries no longer eligible for development money. It focuses on the EU's strategic partners, which include South Africa. Horizon 2020 is a funding program for international cooperation in scientific research and innovation. It has a budget of €79 billion for 2014 to 2020. Erasmus Plus provides scholarships to study in Europe, open to applicants from any part of the world. One of the challenges for the EU in Africa is to use all these financial instruments in a coherent manner. The EU's action in the Sahel is a prominent example of such a challenge and how it attempts to overcome them.